Episode 12 of The Unfiltered Athlete brings us sanctions, court cases, and what some would call a stolen Olympics. See how long you can hold your breath as I'm joined by Laura Strugnell, an Olympic synchronized swimmer for South Africa who certainly has a very interesting story to tell. Before you let go and take your next breath though, be a legend and don't forget to like and subscribe. Right, I'm here with Laura Strugnell. You are an Olympic synchronized swimmer and you're here with me on episode number 12 of The Unfiltered Athlete. And you're actually the first person I've done a remote conversation with. So fingers crossed the technology holds at my end and we can get it all sorted. So thanks for coming on. Appreciate you and looking forward to our discussion. So for those listening, you're a multiple-time world championships participant and also an Olympian. You've got quite an interesting story that we'll get to. But to start off with, I just want to sort of know how did you get into synchronized swimming, because it's a very niche sport. Was it something that was part of the family already, or was it? Was you just a talent spotted when you was a swimmer, or how did we get started?
It was actually part of the family. I just kind of wanted to be like my sisters. I was 5 at the time. So I just wanted to be like my older sister and do exactly what she was doing, which was synchro at school. And then the coach kind of said to me, you have to be able to swim at least 2 laps of it. I think it was actually a 33-meter pool, but an old-fashioned pool. You've got to be able to swim 2 laps before you can, even try out. So my gran would take me along the side and I'd practice every day while my sister was practicing. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'm ready. I can do 2 lengths. And so she had to stick to her word and take on a little 5-year-old. Then it sort of sucks you in, and it's a very addictive. I guess all sport is addictive, but for a girl or now men as well, dancing, swimming, gymnastics, all in one, it's kind of the perfect sport.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned there that you were doing synchro through school and your sister did synchro through school. So is that like a normal sport in South Africa that is part and parcel of the curriculum?
Not really. At the time, I think the coach my first coach that was coaching them at school as a teacher, she was a teacher at the school, you have to do an extramural. And she was already doing synchro. She had been doing synchro when she was, from younger. And so I think, in her mind, she was like, okay, let me just start synchro. It's easier. Then I don't have to go and do rugby or something, So I think that's how it started. It's a very small sport in South Africa, extremely small.
Yeah, I'm going to say it is a very, very niche sport. And like I said, my background with synchro, or the common ground that we've got, is obviously egg beater in terms of the kickstart that you use to keep yourself out of the water. So, I mean, I have a great perception of how hard it is, the actual sport itself, and how amazing and impressive your routines are that you're able to perform. Say coming from a water polo player, because the training that has to go into it is crazy. And I just want to know, so when you started building yourself and going through, your training, what was the sort of age that someone spotted you and realized, wow, this girl's got potential, she could go all the way?
It's not really like that in South Africa. You don't really get scouted for, only the main sports in South Africa, like rugby, soccer, and cricket. You really have a proper career and you get paid, decent amount of money. In the smaller sports, it's more you do it. It's more a hobby, actually. It's like a hobby you pay for yourself. But because the sport is quite small, I wasn't always the best, so I still have to work my way up. I'm not like the ideal shape and height for synchro. So in the water, ideally, you have to be quite light, and I'm quite muscular and shorter, more like a gymnast. Should have taken up gymnastics, carried on. So, I had to work a lot harder in that sense that I'm heavier in the water than somebody who is a lot taller and has maybe less muscle density than I do, then it's a lot easier for them. So, yeah, I just kind of worked my way up and stuck with it. Made me very resilient until I sort of got the opportunity to qualify for Tokyo. And then, that's so really just worked my way through. But it is a very small sport. And so, like, even to Tokyo, there was only two of us that went,
Yeah.
so a duet, because we don't have enough to sort of even compete as a team, a proper team, and we don't all live in the same city, and it's expensive for us to all get together and to sacrifice a lot of time and stuff for 10 to 8 to 10 people. It's just not viable.
Yeah. So you said the best sort of anatomy for a synchronous swimmer is tall and lean, basically. So it's not
Yeah.
necessarily a short person. Okay. So
No.
similar to water polo, then you want height. Where I mean, I was also quite short for a water polo player. Like I'm 5'10", and most of the guys that run my team was 6'2", 6'3", and taller. And I always remember being the shortest person pretty much on most teams that I played for. So what was your first major comp? Was it a world championships?
No, actually, my first international competition was in 2004. We went to Greece, and it was it's now called the Mediterranean Cup, but it's like an age group 13 to 15.
Okay.
So that was my first sort of international competition. And then I did two of those, and then obviously moved into the next category. And when you're 16 to 18, there's like a junior worlds and junior competitions, but we didn't attend any of the junior ones. I think the timing might have been, not. We don't always get enough time notified enough in advance, like to prepare. So by
Yeah.
the federation, so it's kind of like you have to decide in your head, okay, I'm going to go for this one, and then you hope that they get their stuff together and they actually send you, kind of thing. So you always just like 2 weeks before they'll let you know, oh, you're going, kind of thing.
Oh wow, that's yeah, that is quite short notice. Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
So when it comes to your age, what was the age that you really started putting in, the real tough hours of training? Like what was your, coming towards the sort of the end of your career when you are like competing at the Olympics, etc. What was the daily hours that you put into training?
So I think when I finished school, I decided to move to Cape Town and train for a gap year here and take it more seriously. So I think that was in 2010. And then sort of 2011 was my first World Champs. So I qualified for 10 World Champs in total. I officially competed at 9. Unfortunately, didn't get to compete at the 10th one. But yeah, so then that's when I really started training a lot after school because I could have more time. But then for a competition like to qualify for Tokyo, you're training 6-7 hours a day. The only thing is that we have to still work around that. So we're training 6 hours a day, which we managed in COVID. Actually, thanks to COVID, it was more possible in certain ways to actually train more because everything like work sort of had slowed down. And a lot of work was online. So I'm a swim coach, normal swimming coach.
Yes.
And that kind of was non-existent. And then my duet partner at the time, Clarissa, she works online. So she was working online. So we kind of trained a lot more. And so it gave us a better opportunity to qualify, because then when the pools started opening again, we could go back to training. And then like we managed to get some swimming pools, like access to some swimming pools, and where they hadn't really opened it up for people yet. So we were kind of training in that sense. But after that, we trained 6-7 hours, and I would work in the morning and the evenings around that. So long days.
And how much? Yeah, no, for sure. So 6-7 hours. How much of that, in terms of, if we're going to split it, how much was like only swimming? How much was gym? How much was actual just technical work and actually practicing the routines and the duet itself?
So quite a lot of land training, actually. Strategically, because it's quite hard to be in the water for 6 or 7 hours. And usually, like a typical full-time professional synchronized swimmer would train 4 hours and 4 hours, and they'd have a big break in between, but we had to like condense ours all in one. So we'd probably do
Yeah.
about 1 to 2.5 hours maybe land, and that would be like a combination of strength, ballet, sort of gymnastics type stuff, stretching, flexibility, and then also practicing our routines on land. We do have a way, like it's kind
Yeah.
of like a little dance on land with our
Yeah,
arms.
I've seen that before. It's
It's
quite
very
interesting to
weird.
watch, for sure. Yeah.
But it really does help. And then we'd get in, probably do an hour of swimming fitness, and we'd call it synchro fitness. So it would be like swimming and lots of underwater work, lots of like synchro technical stuff to prepare your fitness, and a lot of fast sprints and stuff, and like trying to simulate the same feeling of a routine. And then we would do a lot of technique. So maybe like an hour of technique, and then you'd move into like conditioning of the routine. And that would be for the rest of the period. Yeah.
Yeah,
For
interesting. So
six days a week.
yeah, so you're very, well, I guess you're very similar to the kind of stuff we did, really, except that like where you're doing your routine, that's where we would do a bit more gameplay and tactics. But we obviously do a lot of swimming, a lot of sprint work, and then a lot of like leg conditioning as well. Like I remember things like, holding chairs above our heads, doing egg
Yeah.
beater, and, holding the
Crazy
big
things.
water bottle, big water bottles with the water's coming out, and it's on, you're trying to stay until it's. And I used to love it. It was so different to usual sports. And I think this is what a lot of people don't understand, is the effort and the time that goes into this kind of training just for you to perform. I mean, how many, you're talking 6-7 hours a day. I mean, how long is one of your duets? What's the time frame of an actual performance?
So we have two different routines. One is very technical, and then the other one is like a free routine, which you can choreograph anything. And so the technical routine is about 2.5 minutes, and the free routine is 3 minutes. They've changed the times a little bit now, but it's not long. So you do all this
Yeah,
training for literally like
yeah.
3 minutes of your life.
And I guess that's where the execution of said performance means so much, because it is such a short time frame. Because I mean, like for me, a game can last up to an hour, sometimes over, depending on how start the game is, or if you've got to play extra time, or if you've got to do penalties. So you can sort
Yeah.
of justify the hours that you're putting in because of the time frame you're playing. But I guess you're similar to sort of Usain Bolt, in the sense all the training goes in for 9 seconds worth of time, and you're the same, where all this training, all these hours goes in for 5.5 minutes total at a competition
Yeah.
is just crazy. And so
And
how does
so
the point system work? Like, if you've got two
um
routines, is it two separate scores added together, or is it like?
yeah, so they've actually just changed the scoring system in 2023, which is um, a, a lot of pros, I think, as a swimmer. Some cons to it, but to make it less biased, because it used to be based on what the judges saw and sort of what they thought. So everything was not meant to be biased, but it ended up being, because it's human nature. it ended up being
Yeah.
biased. So they kind of changed it more towards like figure skating or gymnastics, where you have a difficulty chart and you have to pre-select certain difficulty moves in your routine. And then that gets multiplied by your score that you get from the judges. And so the judges mark you on things like your presentation, like facial expressions, how well you tell the story, how well you execute things, so your timing and all of that. So it has to be perfect, obviously, like that you get
Yeah.
deductions for every error, every timing error that you make with your partner or your team. So that they deduct from your score, your end score. And then like if you don't complete one of the difficulty moves, you get a base mark, which means that your score reverts to the base number that they have. So basically not for that move. So
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
changed the game, which was cool because it really wasn't biased anymore, and it made the sport strategic. So whatever coaches were very good at having a strategy, knowing their swimmers well, knowing how well their swimmers can handle the pressure, what kind of pressure they can handle. And then just also knowing your limits and knowing like what you can really do. So we were, for the first time ever in our sport, I couldn't tell you who was going to win. Whereas my entire career, we could all tell who was going to be number one, who was going to be number two, and it was the same. It didn't change. No matter how well you did, it was based on what country you came from.
Ah,
So
interesting.
yeah, it really has changed the game. And even for Great Britain, they won a silver medal. Gold medal, yeah, in the. I might have it wrong, but anyways, they won a medal in duet in Paris. And
Yeah.
Great Britain has never won a
Yeah.
medal in synchronized swimming
Yeah.
in ever,
Yeah. They were in the same
and
boat
Netherlands
as
and
us. Yeah, they were in the
yeah,
same boat as us in terms of like when we used to get our funding back in. I mean, we're talking over 20 years now. When we first originally started getting more funding because we got the 2012 Olympics, I remember us and Synchro being very similar in the sense that our funding was low because we hadn't had any experience at previous Olympics of medaling. It was the sports like cycling and athletics and swimming that had got the majority of the funding because they had medals to back it up. And
yeah.
then when it came to Beijing for us, we weren't even allowed to go to the qualifiers because they didn't want to waste money going to the qualifiers
Oh,
for
it's
us
the
not to
same thing.
qualify. But then when it came back to the supplementation of the funding, we then got our funding cut because we didn't medal in Beijing. So it was kind of like a catch-22 for us where we wanted to prove
Oh,
ourselves but weren't allowed, and
yeah, it is. It's
it's
like
just yeah.
any investment. If you don't put money in, you're never going to get anything out.
Yeah.
So I think this is a lot of similarities in synchronized swimming as well, is
Yeah.
that there's not a lot of funding. So it's quite difficult to get the same training as a country who's getting a lot of funding. And then you're
Yeah.
never
I
going to
think
get the
yeah.
medal. So that
Yeah.
cycle goes.
It's yeah, it is definitely a catch 22 for sure, where the money's got to be put in there and also the more money that's there, and then you can get things like TV deals and put it on TV. More people get interested in watching it and learn about it. It then means the grassroots grows. It's it is just an endless
We
cycle.
should
I,
run
I
the
completely agree.
federations. We should
I
run the
mean, this is, I mean,
federations, just saying.
it's just such a minority sport that the interest is in there. And I know that I know sometimes watching things like synchronized swimming and watching things like water polo in terms of the rules and what we're looking for, it can be quite confusing. But if someone actually has something to explain that and has someone commentating at the same time, explaining what's going on, then they are exciting things to watch. Because one of the things I wanted to talk about was when you're watching someone doing a routine. I've watched I've watched the girls before doing their training, and the coach would be on the side and sort of like tapping the stairs out the pool for the rhythm. And so one of the things I wanted to know is when you're actually performing, you're at these big comps. How much can you hear? Like
Oh, so
what's it like hearing underwater?
underwater you can hear the music far clearer than above. So
Okay.
like the underwater, because sound travels faster through water than through the air. So it's
Yeah.
really clear underwater, unless you have a really shit speaker, then it's not.
Yeah.
um, but so that's how we hear the music underwater, but it's all similar, very the same as dance. It's in a rhythm of 8 counts or 6 counts,
Yeah.
depending on the beat of the music. And so when they're tapping, those are the counts that we're using to the music. So
Yeah.
sometimes we don't even really hear the music. Instead, you're counting the rhythm. So when that music's playing over and over 20,000 times for 3 years,
Yeah.
um, the same song or the same 20 seconds, you're not even really hearing that. You're just thinking of counts and what you're doing um, and all of that. Nowadays, we have headsets that the coaches can speak in. So
Oh
they no
wow.
longer have to tap, often. So they can just count for us and shout at us when we're under the water and throughout the whole routine. But obviously for the competition, we can't use those, but just for
Yeah.
training purposes.
And the music, when you're at the competition, is the music is played above the water, or is this underwater speakers as well? Is that something, or is it?
Yeah. So it's all connected. So basically it's just an extended speaker, but into the pool.
Yeah.
And at competitions, usually they would have probably 4 underwater speakers, because the underwater is extremely important. If you don't have
Yeah.
underwater, or if something happens to it underwater, um, your routine can go really wrong, because you rely so much on that rhythm. So your timing would probably be out, and stuff like that. So it would be quite difficult to swim without it, but we do practice. So we
Yeah.
practice for any case scenario, making sure
So it's
that like the coach will just turn off the music and you have to keep going and pretend like you can hear it,
so you
and
so
there's no
so
stopping.
so it basically becomes like a kind of muscle memory kind of thing, where you just get so used to drilling it in, drill it in, that you, as soon as the music goes, it's just the same thing. You keep going.
Yes, and we even speak to each other or count underwater. So while we're doing the routine, one of us would, if something had to happen to the music or we have to make sure we're in time, one of us would be like squeaking, or like in teams, they tap like this. So it makes like a duk, duk, duk noise.
Oh,
Um, so
that's
like one
I didn't know
person,
that.
maybe the reserve will be on the side, like tapping for the whole team like this, and it would make like a really loud noise underwater.
Oh
So
wow.
that the rest of the team could hear, or for whatever reason they don't have music, something like that. So
That's amazing.
there's a
And
lot of there's a lot of communication going on under there.
yeah, I would say if I was the reserve doing there'd be a lot of pressure being the reserve,
Yeah,
making sure that the beat is the right timing as well.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy. What's the, is there, you said you were told you've got to be able to swim 2 lengths before you can start training. Is there anything, like when you start to get to that top level, is there any tests that you have to do in terms of, like, you've got to be able to hold your breath for this long, or you've got to be able to, lift us, someone out of the water, or is there anything specific that they're looking for, or is it just an accumulation of, showcasing everything?
So in South Africa, they would have some sort of testing to be part of a team, but it's not very efficient. But if you were in uh, England, for instance, or in, let's say, America, there's team
Yeah.
trials, and then there's a whole like prerequisite of things that you have to do, and you get scored based on all of that. And then you get scored also not just on your ability, but also like how well you handle pressure, how well you do in a team environment. Like, are you a team player? Because it's not an individual sport, even though there is some individual people, but it's, like, what is your mental capacity like? So a lot of it
Yeah.
is based on 2 of those aspects, so physical and then obviously like the mental side of of being an athlete. And then these would be selected and done on a trial basis. I think whenever they have their trials.
Yeah. And have you ever tested how long you can hold your breath for?
Probably 75 meters, so 3 laps in a 25-meter pool.
Nice. Nice. I think
But
mine was always between 75 and 100 meters, there or
I
thereabouts,
don't know
depending on
about
how fast I was swimming.
Everyone always asks us, how long can you hold your breath? And it's basically just until the coach says you can come up. You're just holding it. You
Yeah.
don't come up if you're not allowed to, kind of thing. But you get used to it. Like, so I often don't think about that I'm holding my breath, because you've got so many things to think about, that you're just going, and you get used to it, I think.
Yeah.
But
No, for sure.
one of my worst sets was two 100 IMs back to back, and the breaststroke was underwater, and it was a sprint, and the breaststroke was a 25-meter underwater, and obviously the second breaststroke underwater, and the whole thing is a flat out sprint. And we had our headsets on, so she was talking to us. We had a Chinese coach, and she was talking to us like, go, 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 faster, faster. And my duet partner, Jess, she, you could see while she was swimming, and she came up early, like the 5-meter mark, by the flags. And I was like, don't do it. Like, and she came up, and we finished the whole set. And the CC was just like, Jess, you're going again. Laura, you can go and do your like an easy 50. And she had to do it again. Like you don't come up, because you can't come up in the middle of a routine.
Yeah.
So it's more the mental side than the physically holding your breath, and like pushing those limits of like, usually you're heaving for air, and you have to stay calm.
So in those, like, the 2.5 minutes and the 3-minute periods, depending on the performance, like, how many times are you coming up to get a quick breath of air?
So we actually did when we were training for Tokyo, my duet partner, she likes stats and data. So she did sort of like a data analysis of our routine. So we were underwater for about 60% of 2.5 minutes, let's say, but at short intervals. But then those short intervals are like extremely intense, obviously, because you're working at 100% capacity, or what it feels like. And your heart rate actually goes down when you're underwater. And then as soon as you come up, then it spikes again. So the above water actually feels a lot harder than down, because your heart rate is higher. But 60% of the time. So it would be like swimming, I don't know, a 200-meter sprint and holding your breath for 60% of it. With quick little breaks in between.
I remember we used to have a few different like swim tests that we did. Like one for the national team, we used to do 2,200-meter swims off, I think it was around about 3 minutes, I think. And then it was basically like our best average. So we had to hold our best average across those 20. And then one of the toughest swim sets I've ever done was when I was playing for Valencia in Spain, and our coach gave us 12 50s. But the 12 50s were off 3.5 minutes. So loads of rest. But the 50s had to be 100%, and you had to be within a second of your PR every single 50.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
And if you missed it, and if you missed one, you had to repeat. So if you got to, if you got to number 11 and miss your time, you'd have to do 12 and then do a 13th. Luckily, I managed to do it in all 12, but I've never felt so heavy swimming. I literally felt like I was swimming through peanut butter. I just felt like I wasn't moving. It was awful. And
that
it's so
acid
simple.
buildup feels like it's like coming through your body. It's pulling out of your body. It's horrible.
And you can sort of, understand what I'm explaining, but some people just will never understand that feeling and how hard it is to try and move under that sort of duress, as it were, because honestly, I just want, you just want to be sick at the end of every 50, and then you've got like sort of 3 minutes rest, and then you go again. And 3 minutes sounds like a long time, but when you're on the side dying, that 3 minutes goes
It's the quickest
so
3 minutes of
quick.
your life.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
But it was weird.
Sorry. No, you
No,
go.
no, go carry on, carry on. No, I was just saying, it's weird that um, you know, during that, when you're actually doing the set itself, like you know, you're sort of cursing, you're like, oh my God, I hate this, I hate it. But then you finish it and you actually complete it. You that feeling of finishing the training session, even though it's not an actual game where you're scoring a goal or, you know, winning the match or something, it's like you feel so accomplished for actually being able to finish the set. And I think
Yeah, for
that's
doing
a
all
feeling
three.
that, yeah, yeah, and that's a feeling that only athletes will ever have.
It's
It's just an amazing feeling. But
It's very true. Like, I recently did a triathlon last year, my first one, and it like really dawned on me, you know, doing something else. Obviously, it's very hard to do something that you're not good at. um,
yeah,
but like for me, I teach synchro to a few young girls, and they've been doing it for 2 years, 3 years now, and they only now look like they're not drowning. They look like they're doing some form of synchro. So like in the
yeah,
beginning, you look like you're drowning. So, but it dawned on me that like synchro and swimming sports, it's a skill that you cannot just get in the pool and anybody can, like running, anybody can run. You know,
yeah.
obviously you have to train to run well, but anyone can run or walk, anyone can cycle. Like, but to swim or to be in a pool is really a skill. Like you can't just
It's a
do
life skill.
synchro.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's a life
takes
skill for sure.
years to be able to do any form of like trading, to teach trading. Oh my, that's the worst. I absolutely like
Yeah.
to teach trading. It's like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. It's so technical though. If you like, you know,
It's so
we
hard.
used to do little tests at school when we were younger. When we do like a term and we go swimming once a week, and one of the tests would be you'd have to tread water for, I don't know, 30 seconds or something. And obviously for me, I was a swimmer, so it was nothing. But watching other people do it and the way that they would do it and the style that they would try
You're
and
just
keep
like
themselves up,
running.
yeah, and it showcases how important swimming is because. Like I've always said, when I have kids, that I'm not going to force them to be swimmers or to be a water polo player, but they're definitely going to learn to swim because it's just super
Yeah.
important to get that body awareness and learn how to, you know, learn how to let the water help you. So if you try and fight with the water, you're going to lose every time. And
Yeah, for
that's what people,
sure.
you know, when people panic and they start fighting, that's why a lot of people, unfortunately, like think bad things happen. But if you're able to, you know, to control it and move easy and relax as much as possible, then obviously
Yes, yeah,
that's
definitely.
what's going to help.
For sure.
So I want to go now to your. Obviously, you multiple times you've gone to World Championships, and then you qualify for Tokyo. So obviously, the elation of, you know, knowing that you're going to become an Olympian. What was going through your head when the games got postponed? And was there any sort of like doubt then, thinking, "Oh, I've got another year that I've got to train for it. Am I going to make it?" You know, was there still security in the fact that you were definitely going to go a year later, or could things
Oh,
have
my
changed and they
story is
take a
very
different?
different. I
Okay, go.
didn't even get to that, but basically no, we didn't know we were uh going at all,
Yeah,
even in the beginning of COVID. So basically what happened was, well, at least from my perspective,
yeah,
I competed in 2019 World Champs. So that would be our qualification because it's continental. So us in Egypt, we don't have enough African countries to compete. So
yeah.
our continental competition is at World Champs. So as the same as in Great Britain, South Africa didn't ever want to send us because we weren't medal contenders. So in
Yeah.
2019, they had told us they're not going to send us. So I actually quit swimming, synchro.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
the partner that I was swimming with continued and found another partner. And I'm not sure if they knew we had been selected or we had qualified, and that they were sending us. However, in February, one of my clients said to me, "The water polo is going to Olympics. How come you are not going?" So obviously we're the same as a water polo. So if water polo goes, then we know synchro is being sent.
He's going
So
to go.
yeah, there was a lot of, I think from 2016, there was a lot of things that happened with some athletes that didn't go, and a lot of kickback about South Africa not sending their qualification spots. So in 2020, they were sending a whole team. They had to, from what I understand. And so they were sending all of us. And then, yeah, I had quit. So the other girl and the duet had sort of still been training. And then I sort of requested to come back and was not welcomed well by it. So I thought, okay, well, there has to be qualifications, just like a team. So I guess once your team gets the spot or you get the continental spot, like your team would have to have trials of who's going to be in that position. So the same with synchro. There had to be a qualification at our nationals. So which duet would be the best duet to go? And so the winning duet, obviously at nationals, doesn't matter if you qualified it in 2019, whoever was the best at the then internal qualification would go. So I asked around a lot of swimmers. At that time, a lot of the swimmers my age or level had retired. A lot of them were like, no, not coming back. And then one girl, Clarissa, found out she was still in Cape Town. And I was like, we have 10 weeks till nationals. Why not? Like, we might as well try, instead of just letting the opportunity go. And then we were lucky that COVID happened. So we had a whole year. So that worked in our favor. Okay. And we kind of trained privately, like secretly, undercover. They didn't really know who I was swimming with. And then at the next trials, the following year, in April, we won. And so we took a lot of strategies. And if I'm honest, I knew how the competitors trained because I trained with them for a long time. So I had an advantage. And that's the goal that we wanted. So we had to train 10 times harder because we were not the favorites. So obviously at the time, the scoring was the old scoring, very biased. So we knew we had to be like 10 times better to be just better, if that makes sense. This is very unfortunate.
Did your old teammate... Yeah, no, I was going to say, did your old teammate not want you to come back and be with her, being she'd competed with her before, or was she not allowed to have you as her partner?
If I'm honest, when we had been swimming for a very long time, it's like a marriage that's not working anymore. Like there was no, it just, it ended on good terms at the time, but we were no longer on the same, wavelength. So we were not really compatible. And she had found a new partner, fair enough. And I had left the sport. So, I just took it upon myself. This was a goal that I wanted to achieve. And I found a partner, who went with me to Tokyo, Clarissa, who I knew had the same drive and the same ambition. And her story, she never got the chance to go to a world champs because she got a scholarship to study in the States with synchro. And the timing, she could never come back for nationals to qualify for world champs. And it was a lot of her own politics. So she got to sort of fulfill a gap that she hadn't been able to fulfill, to compete internationally at a world champs or now at Olympics. And then we didn't have a coach at the time when we decided to take on the 10 weeks. We had a tripod and we had a phone, and we were kind of coaching ourselves. And my old coach from Johannesburg, she had quit politics. And in COVID, she sort of helped us online, and then we asked her if she would be interested in helping us get there. And so it also for her, due to politics, she was never able to go be an international or be a coach for an international team or take
Yeah.
us to an international competition. So she also got to fulfill that, So it was quite a nice story for everybody in at the end.
Yeah, amazing. And so you end up going to Tokyo. What was that experience like? Because obviously it was such a different Olympics compared to everything else. Like obviously no crowds, and what was the atmosphere like there? Because it must have been difficult to not perform without anyone sort of watching, and with the restrictions and wearing masks and all. Do you kind of feel like at some point, obviously it's amazing that you get to call yourself an Olympian, but do you feel like you were cheated out of a proper Olympics, as it were, the actual experience itself?
Yeah, it does. Like I was to be honest, I was extremely disappointed with the whole, got there and I was like, oh, this is not what I expected. Obviously, and I don't know, because maybe it's like that, or, just plus a crowd. I don't know, but it definitely wasn't what we expected it to be. A lot of
Yeah,
restrictions. They had, a lot of, I think even just the vibe in general, like people were so tired, I think, because it had been postponed and just dragged on so long that even the village, they hadn't upkept the gardens. It was all dried out, and everything looked a bit dilapidated.
yeah,
And so it was a bit disappointing in that sense. And it did spark my sort of reasoning for wanting to try for Paris again. And so the first time, I think, the qualifying for Tokyo was really to reach the goal of going to Olympics and competing. And then the second time was, one, to see if it was a different experience, and two, to
yeah,
gain more experience in the training and the coaching from our Chinese coach that we hired. And so more for the sport, to give back to the sport afterwards, because I had already
yeah.
achieved my goal. So it was, but to be fair, we don't really hear the crowd in the actual competition. So the actual competition, when we were competing, was way more chilled than World Champs,
Okay,
because World Champs has 40 plus countries competing, whereas they limit duets depending on the country and how the capacity. Our year was 22 duets only. So
okay,
it really was quite a small competition, and they only have 10 teams. So,
yeah,
the 5 continental and then 5 extras. So it was quite a small, very chilled. Once you got there, you were there, It was just
yeah,
about not getting COVID so that you could actually swim, because if you don't compete, you don't qualify as an Olympian, even if you're in the
yeah,
village.
yeah.
So
And
different experience.
yeah, that's like, so because of that, though, obviously you hear the stories of everyone meeting all the famous people and the top athletes. Like, did you get to actually meet people, or were people really hesitant about even interacting because of the whole scenario?
We met a few people. None of the famous, not a lot of the famous people were actually even staying in the village. And you had to, you couldn't really talk to anyone because they had taken all the seating away outside. So you couldn't sit
Oh
and
wow!
chat. And there was nowhere to watch the games. There was nowhere to socialize, for one. And
Yeah.
then in the food hall, they had, which was the best place probably, but they had these plastic things that went
Oh
past you. So
no!
you couldn't even hear. I couldn't even hear
Plexiglass.
Clarissa when she was talking to me, and I was like, what did you say? Kind of going across
Wow.
the glass. So, and then you had this glass thing in front of you. So you were hello to the person across from you, but you couldn't actually talk to them, So it, it wasn't, we didn't make it like a lot of friends. I think people were really scared. Like even we were scared to get COVID, because if you got COVID,
Yeah,
it's
you
game
couldn't
over for
compete.
you. So
Yeah.
yeah, people just kind of stuck to themselves. Coaches, our coach especially, which I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
in the end, we're very like strict. I think because they didn't want the athletes to get COVID. So yeah, it was
Yeah. Fair.
a very lot of memories,
A,
different
a
memories.
unique experience. Yeah, a unique
Yeah.
experience from a weird point of view, by the sounds of it, for sure. So right, I want to get now into uh, the nitty gritty of sort of what your story as a whole that sort of really attracted me to have this conversation is the ups and the downs since Tokyo. So you were basically about to compete at a World Championships. Which World Champs was that? Was that
In
Qatar?
Doha. Mm.
Oh yeah. So I was actually there. I went to, because I'm based in Dubai, so I flew over to watch the last day of the men's walk polo, so all the finals, like the seventh, eighth, fifth, sixth, third, fourth, and the gold medal match. So I was there,
Yeah.
and one thing that sort of uh, surprised me there was it didn't seem as big as it had been in previous years as well. So I don't know if there was still some carryover from people not wanting to travel as much from COVID, but so your story, tell me, fill us in on your story of being at those world champs.
So yeah, basically that was our sort of, if you had a spot, a position for Olympics, a qualification, which we had from Continental, you had to swim. Every country who already had a spot, you had to swim and secure the spot, and say like your country would say like, yes, we are taking that spot. Like, and
Yeah,
if you didn't, it would kind of go back into the little pot, and then it's up for grabs for the next in line. Whoever comes, whatever
yeah.
next.
So
And
did you
so
have to finish? Did you have to finish in a specific spot to get that place, or was it just you just had to compete?
so technically, like because there isn't technically, we had the position already because we have Egypt and us. And how it works
Yeah,
in synchro is that the best team gets a position, and then you get the second best duet gets a position.
got you.
So, like, we already had the position, but our country wanted us to come top 20, which is one of the reasons why we hired a Chinese coach, to make sure that we like got to that, because that was their criteria in order to send us. They wanted us to show like you are capable and you're good enough to go. Like
Yeah,
basically prove, that we're not just taking the spot for fun. And with the new rules, it was very, very possible. So, like it wasn't very, like before, if they had said that, I would be like, oh, I'm never going to get top 20 because we South Africa, like it's never going to happen. But this time they had changed the rules, and, our scores 2 months before that would have placed us in the top 20 if we had got the same score,
yeah,
and we had already been
yeah,
training for a lot longer. So yeah, they wanted us to come top 20, and then they would accept the spot for us, and then we would go to nationals and have the competition within South Africa to send the top duet, and hopefully if we're the top duet, then we would go to Paris. And
yeah,
we should be, if we had already won previously and we were competing at World Champs, you're normally the top.
yeah, yeah,
And so we, 2 weeks before we due to leave, of course, we don't actually haven't officially been told we're going. And then they tell us that we have to send a team of 8, and we have to train. We have 5 days to train as a team
yeah,
together. We have to learn a new routine, a new team routine. We have to swim the new team
In
routine in
in
5
5
days.
days.
Yes. And we have 2 routines as well. The team would not have qualified for Olympics. So it was, I think, just a formality that they needed to see in the team. And we requested, like, please, can you excuse us from the team? We need to really focus on our duets. And they refused to do so and kind of threatened us that if we pull out of the team, there'll be consequences, and sort of forced us to be part of the team. So we said, okay, we'll be part of the team. Like, we'll do it. And then we requested, they had selected certain coaches. Don't ask me how they select them, but they selected coaches. These coaches had very little knowledge of our routines, and they had very little knowledge of the new rules. In my opinion, not very qualified. But we requested that if we could have accreditation for our Chinese coach to come with us. And it was denied multiple times. And then a lot of, like, in those 2 weeks before, a lot of backwards and forwards. And at one point we were like, well, if you're not going to let us send our coach, like, we really need our coach there, because we can't watch ourselves on the side of the pool. She knows our routine. She knows how to prepare us mentally. She knows if we keep making mistakes, it's usually mental. So your, like, confidence goes down and down and down. Then you just make mistake after mistake. So she knows how to change that, how to switch it off. Like, your coach has been working with you for 7 hours a day, for months. And so they know you inside and out. And they're there mainly for mental support, because the training is done. The training is mostly done. It's just to make sure you know exactly where you are and, like, how you stay the course mentally. And with, like, a lot of the stuff going on where they wouldn't let her come, like, it didn't make sense. Why we were paying for her to come. Like, it's no issue usually to have an extra additional accreditation. She's not part of the team. She's just watching on the side of the pool. She's not staying with us, like, and so already that was like, but why?
A bit weird.
Why do you not want us to do well for the country? And then, it just sort of, like, snowballed from there, because we were not being treated very well as athletes, and we were not being given an adequate warm-up time. They kind of ignored our coaches. Like, our coach sent, like, an email, a detailed email, like, this is what they need for warm-up and this is how much time. And, like, they were not giving it to us. They wouldn't give us the plans ahead of time. And, like I said to you a little bit earlier, like, we are adults, no longer children. So when you need to compete and you know what you need to do, and you know that what is happening isn't, like, adequate, of course you're going to, say something. You're going to stand up for yourself. When you're young, it's really hard to stand up for yourself in front of a coach. You keep quiet and you just take it. So, we weren't going to, we were trying to do the best that we could with the situation that we were put in, like, with our coach not being allowed. So our coach came to Doha, and we were not allowed to see her. We were banned from seeing her, even outside of the hotel. She wasn't even allowed to come into the hotel. So we were banned from seeing her. She wasn't allowed to come and watch, like, the videos with us, even at the hotel. It was just bizarre. They changed our room number to be next to them, like children. Like, it was the most bizarre thing. And then they tried to give us a disciplinary hearing. They gave us 45 minutes to get ready, but they didn't give us any information. So they said, the reasoning was deceitful protocol of Josephal training protocol. And we're like, but you can't give us like no information. How are we supposed to defend ourselves?
Yeah.
And so we called our lawyer. At this point, we were already in talks with a lawyer to make sure like we were doing things that, our rights and as athletes and for our well-being. And we went to this disciplinary hearing, and we said we would like legal representation, which we are entitled to, and we'd like you to postpone this until we get back to South Africa, because it's obviously not
It's not the time or
it's not,
place, really, is it? Yeah.
no, we're competing tomorrow. It's 8:00 at night. Like, we can't be,
Stressful.
no,
Yeah.
no.
You're athletes. You've got to be able to perform.
Yeah. And so, the meeting was adjourned. They were reluctant. They said we couldn't postpone it, but we were like, but you have to, because you haven't given us legally. You gave us 45 minutes to prepare,
Yeah.
and we would like more time. So, anyways, and then the next morning they acted like everything was fine. We got ready. We woke up at 6:00. Our competition was at 2:00. We did our hair and makeup, and we went to the warm-up pool. So it takes us 2 hours to warm up. That's to prepare for the 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
We went through all the training, all the warm up, not one single word. My lawyer still messaged me in the morning and said, like, has anything happened? Have you heard anything? He had sent them an email before, just confirming everything that was in the meeting. And they responded, they do not acknowledge his email. Okay. And we carried on, and then they disappeared. The coaches disappeared, and we were like, where is everybody? Like, we need to go and get our costumes on. We need to go and do the final preparation and do our final swim, like practice swim. And then we just saw them walking, the 2 coaches and the manager, and they pulled us into the first aid room on the side of the pool. And they just said, like, you've been sanctioned, your accreditation has been removed, you've been pulled from all the events, and you will be sent home on the first flight back to South Africa the next day. And we were like, for what? Like, you can't just sanction, like there's a process. It doesn't matter what it's for. You still have to follow the process. So whatever we've done, it doesn't matter. Like, you still have to follow a process. And like, we couldn't talk, like World Aquatics, no one would talk to us at World Aquatics. No,
So
like the coaches just left us.
Was it World Aquatics that issued you with the sanction, or was it South African Swimming?
So from what we understand, it's South Africa. World Aquatics has nothing to do with it. But yeah, we're trying to find out that's the loophole, is that World Aquatics has to do something about this. You can't be letting countries just give sanctions. They had been also, our Chinese coach wrote to World Aquatics in an email and said that they were treating us badly. So she had flagged it at the beginning of when we got there. So they had known that there were some issues. They knew that there were some issues with accreditation. So there was knowledge that there was issues, and the fact that nobody even like took any interest to think like, hang on, like now there's a sanction. This is a bit weird. I understand that it's not their jurisdiction, but it's at their competition. And so, we found out that like the team, that was our team, were given by World Aquatics a psychologist to deal with the situation, and we were left to sit on the floor, obviously in like disbelief and crying. And we asked multiple times, is there somebody we can speak to? Like, just somebody who can hear us out. And like, nobody would listen. Nobody would talk to us. So I just like, if something like this can happen, my mind goes to, what happens if it's even worse? Like, this is emotional stuff, but what happens if it's like physical? And nobody is listening to the athlete. They just take the word of the federation or the coaches. And it's been a struggle. We've reported like safeguarding issues multiple times against all the people involved in terms of like safeguarding because of the mental like issues that have come from it as well and prior and whatever. It's really difficult to get anybody to listen. We're still waiting. We're still waiting for
Yeah.
our like South African Olympic Committee to respond. We're still waiting for actually, we brought on charges against the coaches for the like safeguarding, and so Swimming South Africa gave us a disciplinary hearing because of it. So they tried to
Oh,
discipline
wow.
us for bringing on charges against the coaches. So like there's a lot of ins and outs of it, but the main thing for me is that athletes really have no voice. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And whoever's behind the scenes of World Aquatics and Swimming South Africa and SASPOC, and I know it's like this in almost every country. It's not only us. But it's quite concerning because if it's something far, far worse, I don't know how athletes deal with it or get around it. So
Yeah.
it's really concerning. And the thing is, like, what I also noticed from all of this is that a lot of athletes don't know their rights as an athlete. So like learning this, obviously going through the legal process and, you know, reading the constitutions of these federations and what like our freedom of association or our constitution, our South African constitution and the constitution that these federations have are like completely clashing. And it's like, so a lot of athletes don't know what their legal rights are. And then they get threatened and like bullied by these, you know, big federations or these big people, because obviously you want to compete. So it's a real struggle when you know something's not right, but you can't say or do anything because otherwise that's the end of your career. So for me,
Yeah.
like when you ask me, is there anything that I don't want to talk about? Like now I'm in a position where I don't have to keep quiet because I'm not affiliated
Yeah.
to anything. I don't even coach under their, the federation. I don't, you know, which is really sad for the sport. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like, I just don't agree with how the athletes in worldwide. And I think like, it's just really a big problem. And a lot of people,
So
like a
you,
lot of other athletes in different sports, contacted me and was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going through something similar. Like, can you help me? I don't know how to address this. They just ignore me. You know, like the only way forward is through legal. You
yeah,
paying a lawyer to help you, otherwise you can't do anything. It's crazy.
this sounds a bit bit more deep rooted than first thoughts.
Yeah.
If it's happening in other countries as well. I mean, this is always why for me, politics should never be involved in sport. Sport is sport, athletes are athletes, and performance is performance. It's as simple as that.
Mm.
So where are you now with this like current court case? I think you've like won a certain part of it, and
So
now
when
there's
we
another
got
part to
back,
go. Or
yeah, so when we got back, we had to, the process was kind of like before we could sue them for the damages that we spent 3 years of our own money and we didn't even get to compete and see the final product. And that's just that.
yeah,
And then the reputational damage and all of that. But basically we had to we had an appeal hearing for the sanction, which took place 6 months. We got a response 6 months later from the federation. We had the hearing. We won the hearing. So we won
yeah,
the appeal. The sanction was completely, basically illegal. There was no due and fair process. Like, they had no reasoning, no real reasoning. To be fair, the CEO of Swimming South Africa didn't really even know what was going on.
oh
Just
wow,
signed off on, some things. It looks like, and yeah, and then they tried to have another disciplinary hearing with us for the same things in Doha. We were like,
Yeah.
well, we couldn't, because then we had issued, and also because we had issued now, like we had started to sue them. So they tried to bring a
Yeah.
disciplinary against us. But according to their own constitution, if you in a legal battle with Swimming South Africa, you may not be a member. So they couldn't take any action against us because we're not members. So we
Fair.
basically won that one. And thank goodness, because you also can't keep disciplining somebody for something that we've already won the appeal on. So
Yeah.
they just keep trying to do that. Now, legally, we've got a pre-trial date now. So we're waiting for, like, this is now, they decide all the information from both parties. And then once they've decided that, and all the documents that we need from them and they need from us, all the evidence or whatever they want, and then it goes on to a court date. And then we wait for that. So the court date apparently would take quite long. It's a very long process,
Yeah.
apparently. So we're prepared to stick it out, because you can't undo a process you didn't follow.
Yeah.
So
That's true. I
it
completely
doesn't
agree.
matter what they try and say we did. Like, unfortunately, basically they can't undo what they did. So we prepared to fight it, because we also want to show athletes, like, you can stand up,
Yeah.
and because there are a lot of South African athletes and swimmers and water polo. I'm sure you've seen all the South African water polo stuff. I'm not sure if you have, but maybe you should get speaking
I've
to one of
seen.
them. They've also
Yeah.
got interesting stories.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of issues, and even, like, we're supposed to have a high performance center being built that was funded with World Aquatics, and all this funding. I'll send you the article, but it's the money's been stolen, and nobody
Uh,
has done anything about it. So it's our federation needs to have new people involved, because it's
yeah.
really just it's been a bit too long,
But I
for the
think
people in there.
if I go back to Doha, I'm pretty sure I remember being at the competition and hearing at the time that I think it might have even been the South African team basically saying we're not going to take our spot at Paris. So whoever's next in line, or whoever finishes ninth in the competition to
Yeah.
goes to the games or something. So I mean, it's at the same World Championships where potentially South Africa pull out for
Yeah.
water polo. So is that like a full circle thing of it being for synchro as well? Because I mean, we all know
Yeah.
that swimmers are going to go because there's medal hopes with swimmers. So, I mean, I actually had Cameron Vanderberg on a few weeks back, and we were talking about finances there and whether athletes are overpaid or underpaid. And obviously, the resounding result is athletes are always underpaid. So, it's I know that swimming has a much different focus comparative to synchro and water polo. We're, like I say, we're the minority sports, but it just seems to me like there is far too much politics within most sports, to be honest. And like, is there
Mm.
any have you got a date set when you're next going to go for these hearings, or is it still like you're just waiting?
I think that the date for the pre-trial is this week or something like that. Our lawyer will go to it, and then we'll
Yeah,
find out from there when the date for the actual trial is, or the court date. Um, and then, they, to be honest, it seems like Swimming South Africa think we're a joke, and they think that we're just gonna, like, it's just gonna disappear.
yeah, you're going to roll
And
over.
we're gonna roll over, and, like, just, everybody's so scared of them. But the thing is that, like, we don't have anything to lose
Yeah,
anymore. Whereas
yeah,
before we wouldn't do it because we wanted to keep competing. So they use that a lot against, us. But it is the same with the water polo. The thing with the water polo is that they let them compete because they had given them, like, also with water polo, an unrealistic achievement that they had to come top 12 or whatever, and to get 13 players to train in the same city and give up work and train for free 6 or 7 hours a
Yeah, it's
day,
tough.
it's
Yeah.
impossible. Like they
Yeah.
don't understand. Like you can't put something in place, like at least for us, even for GB, like the duets, like you guys had less funding, but for two people, okay, you can find some money, or you can find some sponsors, or you can
Yeah.
you can make it work a lot cheaper than 13, you know?
Yeah.
So
No, I
people
agree.
don't understand that with water polo. Like we have really good players. We have a lot of, like, it's not a minority sport here. It's huge in South Africa, in the schools and stuff. It's huge.
Yeah.
But when you get to the level of after school, actually all of them just leave because there's no
Yeah.
point, you know?
Yeah. And I
So
remember we played South Africa first game of the Commonwealths in 2014. That was the last time I played South Africa was
yeah,
2014.
I mean,
And
they're not terrible, but
there's some big
they're
boys.
not able to train like as a team. You can't just
Yeah.
put people
Yeah.
together and expect them to know how to, like, you would know, and I understand, like my duet partner she knows me so well that she can predict my move, and
Yeah.
it's the same I can imagine in water polo. Like your team knows each other so well that you can predict how they're going to throw the ball or where they're going to go or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you
The
can't put
cohesion's
people that
important.
don't play together often quickly
Yeah. No, I agree.
to a week before. Like it's impossible. So a lot of people, outsiders, also don't see that, and then they're like, "Oh, why are they not so good or whatever?" But it's not the people, it's not the athletes. Like in my mind, we're
Yeah.
all human. We all have the same bodies, the same. It's what facilities you have, what training you have. Like that's what makes a difference.
Yeah. The support definitely does. And it actually brings me on to my next question. Actually, you know, I'm going to take a wild guess that you didn't have any support after all this happened, because obviously it's the federation that were the ones that are against you. So, but how did this affect you mentally? Like, what kind of things were you having
Oh,
to deal with, and was it just a straightforward, right, I'm done, I'm out of synchro, I'm not swimming anymore, and you just went straight to work, or is this like a long lasting thing that you've really tried, you've had to struggle with for the last however long?
I think it was extremely difficult for me because synchro has been my entire life since I was 5, and I kind of built my whole world around it and my existing world around synchro in order to be able to train. And so like when we didn't have anything, it literally just stopped. Like
Yeah.
stopped. We couldn't even carry on trying to compete or whatever because we're not allowed to be part of the federation. So even if we wanted to go and compete, you can't. So there was
Yeah.
there was no way to even continue. Like we've trained and stuff, but um, we can't compete. And so also like it was extremely difficult. I think like probably the hardest period of my life because I used sport to run away from all my problems.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people do is that they, if something happens and you're like, okay, I'll just hyper focus on what I'm good at, what I can
Yeah.
see results. And so like to have that taken away was extremely difficult. I lost, I know they say this so often, but you lose your identity and like who you are and what you do. And it's so true because you build your life around it. You, you don't really know how to it takes a long time to figure out how to do other stuff. And also like, it's
Yeah.
hard being shit at other things. It's really crap. Like I started running and I
Yeah.
was like, this is crap. Like I can't do it because, I'm so bad at running and it hurts my knees and like I'm just bad at it. And like people pressure you to do, like I did a triathlon for fun, and then people are like, oh, you'll be so good because you like naturally you're an athlete and whatever. And you're like, I just want to do it for fun. Like I didn't know how to enjoy exercise. Like I went to the gym and 1 hour was not enough. So I felt like
Yeah.
I had not succeeded in anything and it wasn't a workout. So I had to like retrain my body in a lot of ways physically to go from training 6-7 hours a day to no training or training once a day. Like my body didn't know how to even regulate properly without exercise. So my everything was out of whack. And like I
Yeah.
didn't know. Yeah, I was so exhausted, but I wasn't doing anything. Like I wasn't exactly exercising, and
Yeah.
I was more tired than when I was training. Like my body just didn't know how to digest food properly.
Yeah.
Like it didn't know how to regulate insulin. Like not that I'm diabetic or anything, but like you eat and then you train straight away or
Yeah.
something. So the training regulates that. And so like mentally and physically, you go through so much change. And I know this sounds weird, but it's really hard to be a normal person.
I
Um,
know. I was the same when I retired in 2014. I ended up playing a little bit more in the UK, just like in the British champs and stuff. And then I moved to Dubai, and I literally didn't touch a ball for 3 years. It was like I went full cold turkey because I was just obviously trying to focus on work and getting more of a career
yeah,
going. And yeah, I struggled too. And honestly, it was me finding CrossFit that actually gave me some purpose and some sense to actually focus on something and train towards something, because I was
yeah,
lost because my training regime had just changed so much. And
yeah.
I wasn't. It was crazy. So I completely understand exactly how you feel for sure.
Yeah, and I had to almost learn like to just not train. I like had to like my body wouldn't allow me to train. I was so tired, like I physically couldn't train. And so like I just had to learn like to be okay with not training, which is a psychological struggle as well for not just
Yeah,
athletes but people as well, and to learn that it's okay to go through it and it's hard to sit in that horrible place. But now I've found so many things that I enjoy. Like I really enjoy just training in the gym. Like I really enjoy it. Actually, like not so much swimming anymore. But like I
yeah,
cycle a lot. Like I really enjoy cycling and I value time with people a lot more because I never had the opportunity. Well, I I sacrificed a lot of that.
yeah,
Quality time with friends and family and people. So, realizing that there's a time and place in my life for being an elite athlete. And now I'm sort of figured out like I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. And now I'm happy to move on to other things. Like I don't know where it's at with if we'll ever, like if we'll be able to compete again or train, like we were. But for
yeah,
now, it's just trying to get sort of life back on track, and keep fit and training and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Would you, if things get cleared up and things go the way that you want them to go, would you consider LA 28 comeback if you could, or is that not really on the cards?
Um, I don't know. Like, I think it would depend on how things go, with this the court case and stuff like
Hearing,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think like I would like to say that if things really changed drastically with like the structure and who they appoint as coaches and sort of the federation, I would be more inclined to swim. But I feel so almost damaged. Like I don't want to swim under those conditions. ever
Yeah.
again, because I know now, I can see very clearly when I'm out of it, like even just expecting like people to train, have 5 days to learn a team and do it without looking like, fooled, is that's for you, for mentally, like that's not good for a person mentally. Like you go to the most elite competition, is even bigger than Olympics, like I said, and it's disrespectful to the swimmers that are there, that have trained so hard to get into those teams, and now you rock up there with 5 days of training, like, and then you must,
Yeah.
your mental state, like you should just be okay with that. Like it's not, those are not conditions that people should be put under to
No,
train,
not at
unless
all.
they choose that. But like it
Yeah.
needs to, something needs to change. So we hope that we can change some of the system with this. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'll
Unfortunately,
keep you
as an
posted. I'll keep
athlete,
you posted.
yeah, I was going to say, I want to know, but I was going to say, unfortunately, as an athlete, it's not always sunshine and rainbows like everyone seems to think that it is. There are a lot of ups and downs, and there are a lot of ins and outs and politics that come into play that shouldn't. And mentally, there's a lot to deal with as well. So you might see the athletes on TV getting all the glory and winning gold medals, and maybe getting big sponsorship deals and stuff. There's still a lot of things behind the scenes that go on that they have to deal with, that the everyday person doesn't even know about. So I wanted to obviously thank you for joining me today. Appreciate you giving me the time to tell me your story, and obviously I wish you all the best with the results, and please keep me informed.
Yeah, I
Um,
will.
and hopefully I'll get your partner on.
Yeah.
Dylan, is it?
Yes,
See,
yes. I
another
think he
another
has
another,
a much more
another Olympian.
pleasant experience, let me just tell you. So the difference that between the minority sports and the big guys,
Yeah,
there's obviously politics, but the athletes are, let's put it this way, better looked after.
yeah. No,
Because
I can
they're an
imagine.
asset. They're an asset to the country.
Yeah.
But I think
Well,
he has
I'll s-
a nicer positive outlook on it.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
some struggles.
I'll certainly be sending him a message and see if I can get him on. But again, like, thank you so much for giving me your time. I really do
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks for having me.
No worries. Well, that's certainly a crazy turn of events for Laura, and a scenario that no athlete should be faced with during their career. I want to wish her all the best for those final verdicts, as well as another thank you for sharing her story. I've got plenty of cool guests lined up, so if you don't want to miss any of them, please hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you stay up to date with who is next.